How we doing? I've just taken the old shock absorbers off the Jeep, and I'm going to be obviously putting new ones on, because these are probably over 70 years old, the ones I've taken off. But it was Jeeps like this, and tanks, trucks, and all sorts of armoured carriers and vehicles that were used on D-Day. And some of you would already have seen my video I did on D-Day on Omaha Beach. But last week I was over in France again, and I wanted to have a look at Juno Beach, where the Canadians landed. Because like I've said before, you know, you keep hearing that, you know, obviously we know Omaha was a hard fought landing, but you get the impression that all the other beaches were just a walk in the park. That really isn't the case. And so anyway, I went down to Juno Beach and well, have a look. So here we are at Saint-Aubin, and this is the sector that the Canadians with the British commandos landed on, and this is Juno Beach. So on the morning of 6th of June 1944, D-Day, while the Americans were landing at Omaha, Utah, the British at Gold and Sword, the Canadians and the British Royal Marine Commandos were landing here. Now, as we said, you hear about the things that went on at Omaha Beach and, you know, the carnage. But we've gone through that before on one of the previous videos, the whys and wherefores, and what led up to the beach landings being so difficult. And I'll put that in a link below this video in the description box, so you can go and watch that if you want. But the difference here was that events that could have turned sour, the quick thinking actions of some of the commanders on the landing craft made sure that things adapted, rolled and flowed to avoid what could have been a complete disaster. The commandos came in just up on that little peninsula as it comes around the corner there, and immediately you've got those houses all along the front, and you've got the actual village beyond that, street after street. Most of those houses were occupied with armed German troops who had a fantastic field of fire straight down onto the beach. There was a seawall, as you see here, and that gave them some protection if they got right in tight to it. Now if you're here, you can see against this wall, that's not too bad. But they can still shoot at you along the beach, which is what they did. But as more troops landed, and they're jamming in against this wall to try and get cover from the fire, from the German artillery and German machine guns, more and more people are coming out and out and out. They just couldn't all get into the wall. So now you're open from fire both sides and above. This really was a killing field. And a lot of Canadians were wounded and killed as they fought and struggled to get themselves off the beach and up into the village itself. Just like the Americans at Omaha, the forces here were equipped with DD tanks, the duplex drive, the swimming tanks, and they were set to be launched 7,000 meters, so about, I suppose, 4 miles or so offshore, and swim in. Just like Omaha, though, the seas were rough, and the commanders of the LCTs that were carrying these tanks said that you're going to get swamped Now, if you remember at Omaha, because they came under artillery fire, they launched them early, and their swim was a lot longer than they were actually trained and had practiced to do. And you know, all the tanks were swamped by the heavy seas. Well, here the commanders brought them right in to around 1,500 meters, just under a mile, and they swam in a lot calmer seas. However, they then came under the range of the German artillery based in and around this village, and they started firing shells out to the LCTs as they saw the tank swimming in. One of the LCTs was hit, and some crewmen in a half-track were killed, and the commander of the LCT told the tank command, he said, drop your screens. He said, I'm not going to let you swim in. He said, you can just get absolutely blown to bits as you'll be sitting ducks. So the commander said, well, you know, what do you want us to do? He said, just drop your screens and get ready to fight. He said, I'm going to take you all the way in. And that's exactly what he did. And he ran his LCT right into the beach, dropped the ramp, and the tanks basically didn't have to swim. They just got out, waded straight in, straight up the beach, and started pummeling the German positions. Now that is a field of fire. This German position here gave authority to rain havoc down on the troops from here all the way along the entire length of the beach. Even the lads that had got up to the sea wall, where they were defended from the fire directly from the houses, could be taken out along this sector here. This 50mm gun could also fire right round up the street and along this side of the beach as well. Now it's protected from direct attack from the sea itself, so as the troops are coming in, it's got this large lump of concrete here so they couldn't fire directly into it and knock it out. You can see it sustained some damage. There's the tanks from the Fort Garry Horse Canadian tank regiment came up the beach. They were able to turn and attack this directly. They tried to get as tight as they could to the seawall to give them cover from the German fire from those buildings along the seafront. But as I said, wave after wave came in, and more people, you know, got further and further out. They were getting picked off by snipers in those buildings. When the tanks landed, because of the smoke and confusion going on the beach, one of the tank commanders turned and came along the beach to try and attack one of the gun emplacements, but he couldn't see the injured troops laying on the beach in front of him, and unfortunately just ran over some of them, just unable to see what was going on or anything. And guys were jumping up and banging on the side of the tank, but with all the noise, the gunfire and you know, the noise of the tank, they couldn't hear him. So one of the quick thinking commanders on the beach grabbed a mine and threw it under the front of the tank and blew the track off to stop it. That's all they could do. So just one of those things. And with tanks going up there was a tank that was a Canadian tank had been knocked out by artillery fire, and Canadian troops, half a dozen of them, took shelter under the tank. And as time went on throughout the morning, they're still sheltered under this tank because the enemy fire was still down on top of them. But the tide was coming in. As the tide came in, the sand got wetter. As the sand got wetter, the tank started to sink. And those poor guys were crushed under that tank. They had nowhere to get out, nowhere to run to. The battle here was fast, it was hard and bloody. And once they got into the actual village itself, it was ferocious. Once the troops actually broke through and got themselves up off the beach and into the village itself, they then had to fight their way house by house. Every house had to be cleared. And there was some pretty serious hand-to-hand fighting going on. But the Canadians have been trained very well in this. And they did. They pushed on and pushed out. If you listen to Hollywood and the stuff on social media, you'd think that the only people that died on D-Day were those on Omaha Beach. But that's simply not true. Commandos, Canadian Tank Regiment, Canadian Infantry, they all fought and died. Further down from Saint-Aubin is Berniers, and this is where now White Beach was. And some of you might recognise this building from some of the shots of D-Day. Today, it's a lovely, quiet, peaceful place for people enjoying themselves. Well, I mean, what can you say? Just remarkable, the bravery of those guys, the tenacity and you know, just sheer determination. It's incredible. And you can see, I mean, I was there, you know, almost 73 years to the day that they landed. And they landed in heavy seas, obviously, and you know, and bad weather. And I was there on a just almost tropical day. You know, calm blue seas, you know, scorching sun. But I think that sort of says a lot, you know, when you see everybody around you enjoying this, you know, enjoying themselves. And I certainly, as I said, enjoyed my time there. You know, that's what those guys, that's part of what those guys landed for, wasn't it? You know, so we could just enjoy ourselves in peace and freedom, and they've succeeded in that, you know. Well, as for what's coming up, what do you say? The weather is amazing at the moment. Really hot and sunny and dry. Everyone's out and about doing stuff, so you know, I'm going to catch up with a few old mates, and I've got plenty on myself at the moment, so I'll film some of that. So there'll be plenty of tractors and diggers and bits of machinery and plant and bits and bobs, so you know, something for everybody. Right then, there you go. Well, I hope you enjoyed it anyway, and thank you all for watching. Look after yourselves, and mind how you go.